Hey, welcome to Janktown. Today we're doing a deck tech primer on Mr. House, President and CEO. But before we get into the video, I just want to thank everybody, whoever showed their support to the channel because, we did it. We hit 1,000 subscribers. I cannot thank you guys enough. It's pretty amazing. Y'all are amazing. But I'll talk more on that at the end of the video. Let's get into our commander analysis. Now, Mr. House is a tricky one, but ultimately, I think I'd want to play him as a build around. It's probably the more suboptimal choice. He's probably better off as like an enabler of a more generic artifact or treasure deck. But you probably got interested in this guy because of his abilities. At least that's the case for me. Because we want to roll dice with him, and if we run hot, maybe we'll get a 3/3 robot. Maybe even a treasure. No, but seriously, he does sound like a lot of fun. We're gonna want to activate that ability many times during the course of a game. And so for us to do that, we need to spend treasures so that we can roll as much as 5 dice. Because that could be a lot of value. Or it could be nothing. But we need to focus up and make sure that our treasure production is on point. Yes, we want cards dedicated to creating treasures, but even as side effects, we probably want treasure production tacked onto them somehow. Now, playing the odds against Mr. House's ability can be tough. 50% chance of winning to get a robot, 1 in 6 chances of getting a treasure back. Not great odds. However, Mr. House only really cares if we roll a 6 or higher, meaning we can stack the odds in our favor if ever we roll a higher dice value. So let's say we roll a d20, now we have a 75% chance of getting a treasure on top of a robot. Now, one thing I do love about this commander is the flavor, because as I understand it, he runs like the casino or something in New Vegas. I didn't play the game. Please don't hate me if I got that wrong. But in case I am kinda correct, then all this gambling on dice rolls, getting a chance to win more if you spend more, I think all that is really clever design. But back to Magic though, I think a lot of artifact decks have mechanics that sort of like drain you whenever you like sacrifice an artifact or a permanent or something. I don't want to do that just because it feels like a flavor fail. How can I be winning if I'm losing all my money? So we're purposefully going to be staying away from cards like Marionette Master because while they are powerful, I don't want to feel like a winner when I've lost all my money. So instead, I want us to feel rewarded when we do win this game of chance. So just keep that in mind when we go through the deck list. Admittedly though, the actual commander and pretty much the whole deck feels kind of gimmicky. Nothing wrong with that, but typically when it's a gimmick deck, you probably want this as like a backup, as a good like change of pace kind of deck. And so you'll bust it out every now and then, but you probably don't want to play it all the time because then you sort of lose the novelty of it. So typically with gimmick decks, I prefer going budget. And that way, it's not such a big investment on our end, but at the same time, we still get the experience of being able to play with it while also still being functional to give us a chance at winning. Now, as at the time of this recording, as per MTG Goldfish, this deck locks in at $70.60 excluding our lands in our commander. Now, the 7 different themes of our deck include our usuals of ramp, removal, and draw, but first let's go over cards of the other themes such as gambling, money, profit, and something we like to call UBP or utilities, bombs, and pets. The go-to game in our House of Gambling seems to be dice rolling. And so, Lightfoot Rogue, Hoarding Ogre, Iron Massive, and Chaos Dragon all let us roll d20s as attack triggers. Now, a couple of things though, I do like how the Ogre also creates treasures, and also don't get fooled by the Mastiff. Sure, we might roll 3 dice if we attack 3 opponents, but we do ignore all except 1, so still only counts as 1. Some ways to roll dice multiple times in a turn cycle though are Maddening Hex, which is where a giant chunk of our budget goes, by the way. It's like $8. But it does let us roll a d6 whenever an enchanted player plays a non-creature spell. Also, Delina Wild Mage, yes, rolls a d20 when it attacks, but also it can create a copy of Mr. House, potentially even multiple copies. And so if we activate the original Mr. House's ability during combat before those token copies are exiled, we can then end up with a lot more robots and a lot more treasure than we had originally paid for. Last couple cards on this list are Circuit's Act, which lets us roll 3d6 for 3, great rate, and Clown Car, which costs X to essentially roll X d6s. Now, we need to bring money to the tables, and treasures are the accepted currency. Captain Lannery Storm and Marching Duodrone create treasures as an attack trigger, while as our top end, Rankle and Torben can create a treasure when they connect, and Beamtown Beatstick's kinda just like an equipment version of that. Jan Jansen and Descent into Avernus are just ways to create multiple treasures in one turn cycle, and Lotho and Monologue Tax can create a treasure on different turns. Prosperous Partnership is an enchantment that can also be a steady source of treasure, and it just snowballs if we are able to win some more robots, and then we create more treasure, and so on and so forth. For burst treasures though, we're running Vault 21, which can net us up to 5 treasures if you have like 5 of a kind or like a full house. However, it can also even just net us 4 treasures if we have a 2 pair. Ruthless Technomancer can create treasures when it ETBs, and I like the recursion of this, because we essentially just need to pay 3 and sack 1 treasure to get Mr. House back if he dies. Finally, Brass's Bounty, and this can create us a lot of treasures in the late game. So we've gambled some treasure, time to profit. Everything's coming up milhouse. Reckless Fire Reaver, Ingenious Artillerist, and Mirkwood Bats all deal damage whenever we win Mr. House's game. And I know the bats do more than that, but I mean, regardless, I like how the more we win, the more we're winning. You know what I mean? Cranial Plating is something that we can equip at instant speed, so that if ever we attack with a bunch of robots, maybe one of them is unblocked, we can then do a lot of damage. Meanwhile, Gear Report Either Grid is a way to deal non-combat damage and just flex on fools on how much we've earned from our gambling. Shifting gears though, it's not just about having a bunch of artifacts and hanging back. Niyali can turn our robots into threats by giving them double strike, while also being just like a nice card advantage engine. And finally, Steel Overseer just provides a slow and steady way to just build towards making our 3/3 robot army into a bunch of beefy boys. UVP time! Now we're building around Mr. House, and so it's important that we get to protect him. Greaves Boots, classics, you know, they still get the job done in 2024, and by the way, Grief is the other pricey card in this deck. But Angelic Renewal and Vat of Rebirth are budget ways to be able to recur Mr. House just in case something goes wrong. Now we can choose which creature we want to get back with the renewal in case like there's a wipe or something, and the Vat of Rebirth should get counters quick with all the treasures that we'll be using up. Lazos Acrobatics is just a way to blink our board, not that we really have like a lot of ETBs to abuse, but it does dodge everything while also rolling us a D20. To support our habit of dice rolling, Night Shift of the Living Dead lets us manipulate a roll, while Treasure Chest and Wand of Wonder both let us roll d20s. Now you might be wondering, why don't I just put this in like the gambling section? Well, for one, the treasure chest has to like sacrifice itself, but 2, these both cost 4 to activate. Now if we had 4 mana, we'd usually rather be spending that on being able to activate Mr. House's ability. And so it's gotta be like dependent on the situation where we'd want these types of effects specifically instead of like getting a chance to get more robots and treasures. Last on the list is Zorn, and yeah, this is just like a staple of decks that just want treasures. For Ramped, I cut Soul Ring for budget purposes, but we are running Arcane Signet and Bauble, and also Ebony Fly. It's a 2-drop mana rock that lets us roll a d6 if we just wanted that option to. For 3-drop mana rocks, Luck Bobblehead gives us a 50-50 shot at creating a treasure. Glittering Stockpile literally is a treasure, just a great way to like repeatedly roll multiple dice with Mr. House. And both Vexing Puzzle Box and Component Couch are just mana rocks that let us roll d20s and give us a chance to create robots and or treasures. Last on the list is Curse of Opulence. Now I know this doesn't create treasures, it creates gold, but it is a really good source of mana in red, and you know, it's only a 1-drop. So while we're busy gambling, removal makes sure we don't die while durdling around. Merkle's Edict and Contraband Livestock let us roll a d20 while also acting as like creature removal. Attempted Murder is an inconsistent way to kill a creature, but it does let us roll d6s a lot of times. Dance Macabre is a Fleshbag Marauder with reanimation, plus it has a d20 roll tacked onto it. Will's Reversal, just a way to fight on the stack, situational, but pretty sweet when you get to land it. Moving on to wipes, Blood Money is a 7-drop that can create a bunch of treasures in one go, while Spiteful Banditry is a wipe that can just accrue multiple treasures over the course of a game. Valiant Endeavor is an asymmetrical wipe that also gives us 2 dice rolls, and while I would have wanted to put Reckless Endeavor here, that $7 plus price point just wasn't worth it. Finally, there's Delete. This is like our Cyclonic Rift, right? It's an asymmetrical board wipe and it can clear the board of blockers while also letting our robots close out the game. Now we have an ambitious game plan, and drawing cards helps us give the means to see it through. Deadly Dispute, Unexpected Windfall just nets us both cards and treasure. Chaos Channeler rolls a d20 as an attack trigger while also letting us like impulse draw. Bag of Devouring Collector's Vault let us loot, with the bag letting us roll a d10 in a pinch, with the vault giving us a treasure. Treasure Map gives us card selection and eventually turns into 3 treasures and into a land that can essentially draw cards from treasures. And Idol of Oblivion just lets us draw whenever we create a token. For Burst Draw, we're packing Secret Rendezvous. 3 for 3 is just a great rate. And Stormclaw Rager is a repeatable source of card draw, even if it is just at sorcery speed. And finally, there's Cut of the Prophets. Our 3/3 robots can be sacrificed to this spell, allowing us to essentially draw double X. Now before we wrap up, I want to highlight the 101st Firsts, aka 3 cards that almost made the cut but didn't. And I want to acknowledge Deadbeat Attendant, and actually any card that says Open Attraction. Now in case you skipped that onset, attractions essentially let you roll a d6 at the start of your pre-combat main phase. And so while that does sound good, you only really roll 1d6 for all of your attractions, meaning no matter how many attractions you have, you only get to trigger Mr. House once.
That still only counts as one!
It just didn't seem worth it to build an attraction deck just to be able to get a chance to roll a d6 once per turn. Next is Brazen Dwarf, and this was a hard cut because it just seemed like it was made for a deck like this. So I kind of went back and forth on this, but ultimately I went with the Cranial Plating, the Steel Overseer as our profit cards because they just seemed more consistent. But you know, if you want to run this, I can see why. Last is Kellogg Dangerous Mind. He creates a treasure when he attacks, which is exactly what we want, and he's got a great payoff. But really, I don't think his $6 to $7 price tag's worth it. I mean, we are going budget, and there are more budget ways to create treasure. Do keep an eye on this card, because as more weeks pass, I do think the price of this card will drop. And that's it for this episode. Hope you guys enjoyed that video. And again, I cannot thank everybody enough that we have reached 1,000 subscribers. Pretty cool, pretty mind-blowing. I'm grateful is what I am. For all those who have shown some love, whether it's a comment, a like, or a subscribe, I just want to thank you guys so much for keeping this channel going. I gotta come up with some way to be able to show some appreciation, you know? But while I figure that out, or if you found this video useful, I hope you could hit a like, share, and subscribe. Again, really helps the channel out. I keep forgetting to say this, but the deck list is available in the description down below. We're also on Moxfield. We're also called MTG Janktown over there if you want to follow us. In any case, I will come up with something. I just don't know what yet. But again, thank you, 1,000 times thank you. Stay inspired, friends, and I'll see you soon.